All right, everyone, good evening. Thanks for joining us. It is officially 8:05 on this Wednesday, September 3rd. Appreciate you joining us here in the Wave Now studio. I'm Jose Sosaya. As we unpack and unwind the day's biggest stories, kind of dive a little deeper into some, bigger issues and stories happening in our community. As always, appreciate you joining us as we hit this part of our evening, whether that's through the Wave Now app or through our myriad social media channels. That's Facebook, X, Twitch, and YouTube. We'll get right down to it to an ongoing conversation over public safety and policy and sort of the discussions among leadership within Metro about things that they can do. And sort of in the reporting we have discussed and sort of a lot of breaking things that will happen, especially given while we're working our time at night, as well as, LMPD and other police departments will as well. That sometimes for folks who tune in and hear a lot of these details to recent shootings and at least the violence that we've been able to track and cover, it can be difficult. Sometimes these are all visual reminders that are not great. Crime tape, flashing lights, families processing losing a loved one can leave them, of course, shaken up. Now, pairing this as we did check in on the latest data with LMPD, letting us know the crime data shows there is an encouraging sign, at least in the trends that they're seeing, but at the same time, in separate conversations and in joint conversations they're having with neighbors, advocates, people who just want a safer community, they're arguing more needs to be done still. So for reference, LMPD talking about their own data reporting, shootings and homicides are down 31% if you at least compare it to this exact time the previous year, so 2024. And at the same time, what is also up at more than 30%, what police are saying is their focused effort to engage with certain communities. And so as part of the latest check on the trends and what police say they can and can't do about that just by themselves, part of the day our Wave News reporter David Mattingly spent talking not just to LMPD Chief Paul Humphrey, but to local activists as well about what still needs to happen over the course of the rest of this year, short, mid, and long term, to break what are some of these more troubling stories of violence.
2025 brings double-digit percentage increases compared to last year in the numbers of LMPD arrests and warrants served. But that alone can't bring down the city's violent crime.
But we need officers who are willing to go out here and do that enforcement work, but we also need officers that are willing to just go out here and be visible and make contacts and do the work that we need them to do.
That needed work is building relationships and building trust, being able to head off the violence before it happens.
Retaliation, anger, frustration.
So far this year, anti-violence activist George Fields says he has responded to 40 homicide scenes, trying to help affected families and prevent further loss of life. His message to LMPD is that trust starts with communication.
When they don't feel you making an effort to help them, they're not going to come and tell you nothing. Can you blame them?
It is no surprise then that the cycle of youth violence this summer has been the hardest to break. No More Red Dots CEO Eddie Wood says when he talks to young shooters or potential shooters, numbers are never part of the conversation.
What works is not just what's on a website. What works is not just what's in images. It's in people. It's not just in numbers. You can't just keep doing numbers and think, oh, it's up and down.
And despite improvement, Louisville is still on pace to continue a 5-year trend of triple-digit homicides. LMPD makes no promises on when the city will be free of its new violent normal.
Now, as for more tools, LMPD is talking about the kind of technology that can also help them make some of these arrests ahead of time and solve crimes faster. One way they're doing this, at least hoping to implement a little bit more, is through the use of flock cameras. Now, those are the license plate readers that they can help track any movement of stolen cars or wanted suspects. LMPD says they are working on getting a number of tech devices up and running a little more. These include a second helicopter, a drone first responder program, and using drones out on patrol. As reference here, this is some of that footage that helped them capture the case of some parents who left a young baby inside of that car, and the suspect took off with the SUV and the baby inside, but you could see just through the use of the technology in the program, at least being able to help them more quickly answer to the emergency call, and you're seeing the tools that help them there as far as where flock cameras are concerned. Now, in February, we did report that Metro Council says there are around 141 cameras funded by the city and LMPD across the metro. Funding to add 139 more of them has already been approved. Moving on to some more stories as we unwind and unpack the day for this Wednesday. Somber update to a breaking story. We actually broke the update last night while we were working here for the Wave News at 11 broadcast. And when word got in, there was another deadly shooting. And to David, his report and his piece where it seems this pattern of youth violence again with another case that a teen has died and an 18-year-old is now being charged after what happened in Valley Station. I want to show you some images of the scene where officers say they had to go at around 4 o'clock yesterday at this apartment complex on Laurent Way. Officers found a 17-year-old boy who was shot in the head. He later died at U of L Hospital. We don't know his name yet. Another teen victim was shot in the leg. It seems like he will survive, but police say they later got a call to St. Mary's, and another person named Jeremiah Robinson got there saying he was shot in the arm. Officers say they determined he was the suspect they were looking for. Robinson now being charged with murder and second-degree assault. Police have not yet shared any sort of detail or indication of what they think the motive could have been in this particular case. And in another investigation tonight, LMPD say they arrested a woman after they say she chased a man in a car and then shot at him. It all started apparently last Thursday when Latasha Williams apparently intentionally crashed into a motorcycle that the victim, this man, was riding. The two apparently had an intimate relationship, Williams driving the car belonging to the victim. An arrest citation says the victim tried to drive away on the highway. When he saw that Williams was following him, he tried to evade her, apparently was able to do so, but later went to her house on Newburgh Road, went to sleep. When he woke up, police say he got into an argument with Williams and she ended up shooting him. At our last check, we learned the victim should survive, should be okay. Williams, though, is now charged with assault, wanton endangerment, and criminal mischief. All right, really briefly, let's take you outside. Thanks to our SkyTrack network, enjoying a bit of the sunrise. Not as cool temperatures around this time of the evening as we've been used to over the last couple weeks discussing the fall's fall, but things are looking calm and quiet. If you join us tonight with the storm tracking team and meteorologist Ryan Hope, we're going to be discussing when this sort of next wave of fall-like temperatures are going to come in. Not only that, but also our rain chances to sort of break a lot of the drought some of our surrounding counties have been going through the last couple of days, if not more, of the pattern of a couple weeks. As we're going to come back after this break on Wave Extra, we're going to break down part of a longer conversation, and this has to do, if you remember, with a story discussing how a local judge finding that there's a case coming before her of someone who she had given shock probation to, but this was now over allegations of a very violent bank robbery. And perhaps, there have been some threats made on the judge's own safety and life, and sort of the conversation that stemmed from all of that. And even some reaction now to advocacy groups apparently banding together to at least try to put in judges that the voting public would approve of, who they argue would be not as willing to offer this kind of probation program. So that's something we're going to discuss when we come back from break right here on Wave Extra in just a bit. All right, everyone, welcome back into the Wave Now studio for tonight's edition of Wave Extra at 8:16. As you were joining us, perhaps before we took this last little commercial break, just the update on the message and information we got into our inboxes for today. So this is the setup that we've learned. There's a newly formed local political organization. They say that they wanted to be created to hold elected judges accountable. That was the stated purpose that this group called Louisville Judges Watch says it wanted to act on as an advocacy platform. So the members of this new watch group say their mission is to advocate for electing judges in Jefferson County who are going to be tougher on crime. Now, they apparently specifically referenced a shock probation release of a suspect named Armand Langford, and that the case accelerated this organization's launch. Now, this happened, the shock probation itself happened last year, but Langford was recently arrested in August for kidnapping a mom and her two kids before forcing them to drive to a local PNC bank, which he then robbed. Louisville Judges Watch says the incident created, in their mind, a growing concern that local judges are sending, quote, dangerous offenders back into the community. That was the position in their stated communication. The committee says it also wants to educate voters and run targeted campaigns supporting candidates who share in that commitment. So perhaps a discussion or a renewed focus on when it comes time for elected judges locally to make their case to the voters, whether those are incumbents or challengers, and having that discussion in the context of this pertains to a case that was, again, from 2024 and some years already served by Langford. The judge's name in this case is Judge Jessica Green. And so to kind of walk us through what the terminology is involved, the factors that a judge in a matter like that would consider into shock probation, I invited our Wave News legal analyst Leland Hulbert to kind of dissect some of that information so we can have that more in-depth discussion. I want to play that for you right now. I'm going to set some of this thing up. And so this is my conversation today with Wave News legal analyst Leland Hulbert, looking at the broader story and where things go from there, and learning that this judge now recused herself in an upcoming matter for the new case pending the suspect Armand Langford. This time, happy to have you here for a conversation that doesn't start necessarily with all the Crystal Rogers trial cases involved. But there is one that, it's a story I wanted to bring you in on to kind of dissect and let folks who are tuning in tonight understand the, I guess, the ins and outs and the context that's involved. And it's two names that are going to be pretty key in this. One is Judge Jessica Green. Mm-hmm. The other is, we presume, still a defendant for this matter, but it's a man we've covered stories on before. His name Armand Langford, and a lot to discuss over here. But the crux of kind of our interest in wanting to discuss it being that she recused herself when she was found out she was assigned to a case for allegations of kidnapping that he's involved in. It seems it's a pretty notable case of a bank robbery on Shelbyville Road. But there's sort of the story that dates back to 2024, if you're familiar with that, and the decision she made when he was in front of her for shock probation. And I wanted to start off by just, if you want to walk the viewers through kind of in that setting back in 2024, what shock probation is for someone who was in his position to ask the judge for that.
So shock probation is for a level of offenses that are probation eligible, so kind of lower level felonies, or felonies that do not involve 85% parole eligibility. So if you're eligible for probation, which I think his charges used to be, I'm not sure they are anymore because the law changed a couple years ago, but if you have nonviolent or lower level felonies, you can apply for shock probation. And basically, you have to wait it's for people that have been sent to prison, and then you file the motion within 30 to 180 days after being sent, and the judge can let you out early. The theory behind the name of it is you're shocked by your circumstances, that just is your first time in prison, you deserve a break, you're doing better than you were, so shock probation is a faster way to get out. And if the judge denies the shock probation, then your next chance to be released is typically the parole board. and that has to do with when you're eligible for parole after 20% or 85% of your sentence.
Sure. If I could offer some of the context for you, and I know there's some of the details from back in 2024 when they were first together in that courtroom. So it was asking for the probationary release. It was a 14-year sentence. It was a string of armed robberies back in 2021. So I don't know if that is the kind of crime where even in his circumstances, it seems like he was eligible to do so. And the argument around mental health was something that a judge could take into consideration, apparently.
So when he pled guilty, my understanding is you wouldn't normally, if you rob someone with a weapon and use that weapon as force or even use physical violence to take property, it's a robbery first degree. And if you plead to a robbery first degree, you're not eligible for probation. So shock probation would be an issue. So these robberies were pled down to robbery second, which is a lesser crime. Carries 5 to 10 years rather than 10 to 20, and it was at that time probation eligible. So he pled to a bunch of them, and then she sent him to prison, and then reviewed potentially shock probation. My understanding is that she set up a shock probation hearing without even a motion, which is a little rare. But the more I looked into it, I think he served 29 months or something, a long period of time in prison, and she had reviewed quite a few documents related to his treatment, related to his mental health, related to his performance in the prison. I think that led her to believe that he was a risk worth taking.
And to back up sort of what you're laying out here is, at least, and this is some old reporting that we have on record, at least Judge Green was able to find a clean slate while in custody, quote, no disciplinary violations, a case manager even making the case for him. He was a, quote, model inmate. It seems that somewhere along the line, the parties involved suspected there might have been severe mental illness because of a brain injury. And so, there was even a quote from a judge, excuse me. This is what happens when you don't drink water beforehand. Judge Kalin, back when she was presiding over mental health court, that Judge Green was doing everything possible to keep him on the right track. So it seems like there were some of Judge Green's peers in saying, like, it seems like she was trying to look at as much to inform her decision as she could.
So I think from what I understand, the public outrage is because of what he did in this new crime, which is horrific and which is terrible. And if every judge could predict what's going to happen, we would have a different system. So you can only go based on what's in front of you, and all you want to see from a judge is that they're doing their job and they're being thorough. If there's any bias, if she would have known this man and let him out or done it for some other sort of reason, that would be problematic. But I don't see any of that in this case. It sounds like she made an educated decision and was attempting to give someone who presumably had turned things around an opportunity. The safer route would have been to just let the parole board decide, because by my math, he was eligible for parole pretty quickly around the time that she shock probated him. So she could have taken the easy way out and said, just let the parole board decide. But I think she'd done her homework and she had done the background and she listened to arguments of both counsel. And I'm not sure how much the victims of the original crimes were involved. Sometimes they can carry a lot of weight. They should be notified about a shock hearing and be able to give their 2 cents. So if she weighed all of those factors and decided to let him out, and then he commits a heinous crime, I mean, I think she's really become a victim of, hindsight's 20/20 or Monday morning quarterbacking, and everybody can talk about a bad decision after something happens, but I don't know how much clamoring for a bad decision on that day. So I don't, it's sort of, whether you agree with her decision or not, she's somewhat being ridiculed because of what happened later, not what happened the day she shocked him.
For sure. And in the situation where I guess, she can look at her calendar, her docket, is it, when you're, in your experience in practice, is it often happen where a judge does recuse themselves if they come across, I guess, is it due to perhaps the circumstance and pressure that she was feeling already that would have compelled her to recuse herself? Would she have done this in any other circumstance?
And I'm not sure if she recused herself of the new case or of the probation violation.
Of the new case in the bank robbery allegations.
Because if you're on shock probation and you violate, you're going to have a revocation hearing. And that would be in front of her for sure. As far as the new robbery with the lady and her children, I don't know if that's the case
We learned that's with Judge Gibson, apparently.
Okay, so it doesn't surprise me. I mean, she's the subject of public scrutiny and public ridicule, and there's been a lot of things said. And so it's no surprise at all that she would sidestep dipping her toe back into a case that's now considered controversial. I think she's doing the right thing. And that she's not taking the easy way out. I think she's just trying to show the public that she's not biased. She's not doing things out of a reason to help anyone or do anything differently. She just wants this person to receive honest treatment by the judges, and that's, you know, more apparent or more clear or subject to less scrutiny if it's a different judge.
Sure. But you wouldn't want, because, you know, the defendant in that case would make the argument, I don't need that bias from a judge with my legal matter. Anything about, well, then my question is, if, you know, you can think of your years in practice and sometimes context or the history of when judges might make these kinds of decisions, and somehow, as you said, they can't predict the future, but they're also subject to criticism and critique from the general public. You know, in your years of practice, I don't know, do judges understand that's par for the course within reason and within boundary?
Well, I think a lot of decisions are made out of fear of what may happen in the future. Bonds are set higher, EPOs are put in place. You know, a lot of times, and you know, now that I'm a defense attorney, I see cases that are close that err on the side of caution. And I think that's because no judge wants to be on the news for what she's on the news for. No one wants to be seen as lenient. Certainly no judge I've ever met wants to see a crime committed against anyone by anyone they've let out. But it happens all the time. So it's a difficult situation. It's a difficult job. I mean, her job is to make judgments, and that's what she was doing. And I don't, assuming there's no bias or any other reason for making that judgment other than legal analysis and judicial analysis, then, you know, I think she's getting too much public scrutiny. I mean, when I first heard it, I did think that it was odd. But then I looked a little more into it, and you know, there's a lot of factors that were not on the first headlines, that were not on the first stories, it was all about a prior robber should have been in prison and robbed again. Well, he was in prison almost 3 years, and we don't have any crimes. I mean, there's very few crimes you're going to be in prison your whole life. So he could have done more time. There could have been things done that were done differently. And you know, what people don't really understand is, obviously, if anybody knew what was going to happen, he never would have been shock probated. So should a judge take a leap of faith based on an improving defendant, or should we just keep people in jail forever? And that's, you know, we don't have the money, we don't have the system, you know, we have enough overcrowding that there are reasons to let people out early, and it's up to the public and up to other people who want to analyze this to decide if the reasons were met. But, you know, this happens fairly frequently, whether it's on bond or whether it's on, you know, some other consideration. I always tell people, you know, when I was a prosecutor, the first thing I'd always do would look at somebody's record. And so when you see someone has a lengthy record, what does it really mean? What were their convictions? And multiple robberies, I think, are problematic. And, you know, the rehabilitation aspect of it and the mental health cuts both ways. I think a lot of people now are afraid of mental health, and they think, well, mental health means you're going to shoot somebody because we have these school shootings and other problems with, and it always seems to come back to mental health, which is kind of a scapegoat. You know, I think there's other problems. It's not just mental health. And so then we have this system that doesn't have the funding or doesn't have the proper doctors or analysis to really treat these mental health systems. So you're left for judges to do it and make decisions based on less than scientific or medical information, because we don't have anybody else to do it. There's simply not enough funding from the federal or state government to treat all the massive amount of mental health we're seeing, and it's definitely a growing problem, not something that's getting better.
Does it surprise you, and just another note on this, that I guess, well, if you want to walk me through kind of the system in which judges are held accountable, whether they get to keep their post by general public or not in the state of Kentucky, to that end, because we got an email just into our inbox. It seems like there's a new political group talking about, or at least campaigning for judges who would take a stronger stance against crime, and singling out this case we've been discussing and saying it seems this is ripe for now the political sphere to dip its toes into the public conversation.
So personally, as a lawyer, I don't think people vet judges enough when they vote. And it's not the judge's fault necessarily. I just don't think there's not a lot of deep diving into politicians. You have a mayor's race, you have a presidential race, you see ads, you see views, you see speeches. Judges are kind of in the shadows.
They don't generally
And-
have the funds to spend that kind of advertising, or they just don't generally do that.
Well, I mean, I think they don't want to be. I don't think they're nonpartisan, so they can't be labeled by all the things we label Democrats and Republicans with. But I do think, they have websites, they go to meetings. If the public wants to know more about judges, I think that's a good thing. Judges should be held to a high standard, and the good judges should be rewarded. And we just can't tell right now, because the judges also, to protect the judges, I think they also need anonymity as far as once they're on the bench. Their addresses should be private, their emails should be private. They probably should stay off social media, because they do have a job that makes difficult decisions, putting people in harm's way, putting people in jail, making people, answer for things. And that's a difficult job. And in today's world, no judge should be subject to threats for something they've done. I mean, I'm hoping those are investigated, because those are felonies. You can't threaten a public official, you can't threaten a judge. Especially directly, and if that's happening, I'm assuming the police are involved in finding out who's doing that. So at the end of the day, I think knowing more about anyone you elect is a good thing, but that's on the public. And if there are action groups that want to show more information, history, and records, and how judges have decided things, I think that's a good thing, as long as they're fair. And with the political action groups these days, whether or not they're fair, I mean, that's up for debate. Usually there's angles, but if there's a true
database or something that
yeah,
you can
well,
corroborate.
or if you're, and what I always go back to is facts. If people are spouting facts like this judge, let 26 people out of jail in March of 2023, that's a fact, okay? Or if this judge has a probation record percentage different than this judge, fine. Or, their background, their legal acumen, how many cases have they had before they were judges? All of those things are in play. And I think most judges would be happy to share a lot of that information. But, there's problems with, the judges. I think that we have so many in Jefferson County, and people just don't know a lot about them. And some of them are excellent. Some of them are the best judges we have in the state, but I don't think people know much about any of the candidates.
So certainly would spur that conversation. Leland, thanks for walking us through sort of where we stand on this particular matter with Langford and Judge Green. And obviously, whatever we find out when he appears in court for these new official charges with the bank robbery, something we'll certainly move forward to. We'll make sure to share our conversation tonight online, and we'll have snippets of it for you later in the evening as well on Wave News at 11. Appreciate Leland's time for that. Thank you, Leland. We're going to take a quick break and be right back after this. All right, folks, welcome back into this Wave Now studio edition of Wave Extra as we're going through more of the day's big headlines, breaking down some of those stories as not only do we unwind for this part of the evening, but also prepare you if there's any breaking news that we're going to be here ready to share that with you if you join us tonight on Wave News at 11. Always there working until the late night hours. As our reporting team is putting together their investigations and their pieces for you tonight. To get to some more of the stories, we learned a man accused of carjacking a work truck driver in downtown Louisville, then leading officers on a chase. Well, he was in court today for the very first time. I want to take you inside of that courtroom. Officers arrested Rylan Tyson yesterday afternoon. Police say at around 3, he used a gun to carjack a man in a work truck on West Main Street around 4th. Apparently, he then led police on a 7-minute chase before the truck got stuck in an alley off of Hodge Street. Officers then say Tyson got out of the truck to try to run away, but police caught him in the end. He's facing several charges. I'm just going to list through some of them, including robbery, fleeing and evading police, leaving the scene of an accident without rendering aid. So what you're seeing is a video of this morning. The judge entered a not guilty plea for him on his behalf, and also issued a no-gun order and a no-contact order with not just the victim, but the business, because remember, it was a work truck that was branded. It was easy for officers to find which truck was stolen. Tyson's bond was set at $100,000. Switching gears right now to some things we're looking forward to. There's a funky new art installation that anyone enjoying a walk around Waterfront Park can enjoy soon if you're looking at your screen. We're talking about 3 platforms. Each has a 7-foot mushroom and some smaller mushrooms that play music if you turn a hand crank. So it's an interactive exhibition. These also can trigger some lights, some mist if you decide to play with them. This display first debuted in Atlanta. Louisville's now the second location for this series that's called the Mushroom Display. It's part of a rotating public art series. The Louisville Downtown Partnership put these together for people to come check out and interact with. It's going to be on display around Waterfront Park, by the way, for the next 4 to 6 weeks. And something else folks can look forward to for next month, as we've been discussing this first past taste of early fall, when that's really going to start setting in with these temperatures. Perhaps a lot of you are looking forward to. It's a fall favorite event for Southwest Louisville. It's the Community Festival coming October 11th to Sun Valley Park. A series of craftsmen, artisanal makers, food trucks, children's activities, car show for teens and seniors. They're going to have their own special areas with things that they might like to do themselves specifically. And this year, there's also going to be a new 5K race at the Southwest Community Festival. It's called the Southwest Fest 5K. It's going to be the 9 o'clock of that morning on the 11th, October 11th, at the Farnsley Mormon Landing. The festival itself is going to get going at the same park at 10 o'clock. Our very own Dawn G is going to be there too, by the way. A great opportunity to come interact and get to meet us and talk to us as part of that Wave News team. Out working, living, playing, enjoying, being a part of our community for sure. All right, let's set some more settings up here. Discussions for some technology and how that's also helping people navigate what could be an intimidating new setting, a new place for a lot of people, especially if we're discussing, young and old students here in Louisville that may, on the one hand, be visually impaired. Others just can't take the stairs for mobility issues themselves. Maybe some are still learning English and then some signs might get confusing. Then there, again, are new students to JCTC, Jefferson Community and Technical College, who still have to figure their way out around and navigate the place. So starting today, all of them are going to have an easier time navigating campus, though, because of a new app. So Wave News anchor Brian Schlonsky spent some of his day to show us how this works.
Confirm to route. Continue to route.
It's not unusual to see young people on their phones.
Now we need to turn left and we need to go forward.
But this isn't TikTok, texting, doom scrolling. What freshman Jake Winfrey is doing is wayfinding using a brand new tool.
It shows both like where seats and like chairs and tables are for where you need to work. It's crazy. It has crazy precision.
It's called Good Maps. The company is global, but based right here in Louisville. Wednesday, for the first time in Kentucky, they are now officially on a college campus, downtown at Jefferson Community and Technical College.
The goal for Good Maps is to provide navigation for all. If you can hold a smartphone in any way, you should be able to navigate this campus.
Kevin Klein works for the company, is visually impaired himself. The mapping system is perfect for anyone who is low vision, has reduced mobility, is hard of hearing, or speaks a different language, as it uses advanced computer vision and machine learning technology to find a precise and safe route.
So Good Maps allows a student to get out of their car, key in where they're going, what room number, what faculty office, what administrative office they want to go to, and it's going to provide them step-by-step guidance for how to get there.
Part of the reason this mapping system is so important, soon more than 500 cars will be parked at this new downtown 4-story parking structure. Work to finish it happening as we speak. JCTC's campus is growing, part of the $100 million Jefferson Rising project.
I've never been into this building before. This is crazy.
And as their student body is freshmen and sophomores, half the college every year is brand new. Good Maps means they have a reliable and safe route to get to class.
This sort of thing will prove very helpful for me in the future.
Brian Schlonsky, Wave News.
And before we let you go tonight, want to end on another update in our What's Good series. The kind of the core vision behind the series is that we understand at the top of the news hour, whenever we come on and talk to you and let you know kind of some of the stories that obviously are not just on our radar, but on yours, but they can handle, or they can pertain a lot of very heavy, depressing themes and subjects that feel just a lot to bear, and the burden of some of those stories. But at the same time, we do want to let you know that we're making these phone calls, sending these emails and texts, because we want to have discoveries and conversations about a lot of good that's happening out in the community, and that you would want to see more of it, to see where this is happening, if it's something maybe you then wanted to connect with on your own time. And so today was our Myra Ansari's turn for her update in the What's Good series. It's a place here in town that wants to show people what the act of love can look like. And so as I set up this particular thing on my computer board here, and then we're going to have Myra. This is Myra's latest addition to her visit to what's called Love City.
So I loved the front porch.
Inga Arvin and her husband saw potential in this house on Alfred Avenue in Louisville's Portland neighborhood. But this house didn't always look like this. Boarded up and run down, they knew they could turn this house into a home. But this property was part of a package deal.
So when we purchased the house, it actually came with the community center building next door, which is about 20,000 square feet of space with a basketball gym and a ballroom.
The Mackin Building gym has a lot of history.
Muhammad Ali boxed in here back in the day. The ABA basketball played here. If you were invited to play basketball at the Mackin, you were a hooper.
The Arvins noticed that there was a need for kids to have a safe place to play in the neighborhood.
So we opened the gym and we had very quickly probably 100 to 200 kids coming every day.
Let's be real, the Portland neighborhood doesn't get that much love. A lot of the homes are run down. They also face a lot of crime, drugs, and poverty. The thing about love, it often has a chain reaction. When you start to love something, you want to take care of it. You want to see it thrive. Wow. And that's what the Arvins did when they moved into the Portland neighborhood. They came up with Love City. The idea is to invest in your community and love your neighbors. Soon after, the gym opened up.
So we're going into the basement, and this is where we have classrooms.
The mission to help grew.
So we do assessments.
There is now a private pre-K through 5th grade school called Mighty Oak Academy.
So this group's working on multiplication and long division.
In order to go to school here, kids have to live in the Portland area.
This is really cool. Did you transform a lot of the space into classrooms?
Yep, so we built all these rooms.
There are about 40 children who go to school here.
Hi, guys.
And across the street
This is our pollinator garden.
used to be a home that was a known drug house.
Let me get this here.
It's now a community garden called Love Grows Here Farm.
We've got tomatoes, you can see everywhere. We've got cabbage. Oh, our eggplants are looking good.
Children at Mighty Oak get to use the space as an outdoor gardening classroom and eat what they're learning about. The vegetables are for the neighborhood as well.
A lot of people say Portland is a food desert, but there's also ability to grow your own vegetables.
And speaking of food, nearby is the St. Cecilia Church, which is home to Love City's restaurant called Portland Barbecue.
What kind of sauce? Red, barbecue, spicy?
In a community where there aren't many dining options, it's a place where people can buy a hot meal.
Actually, our a nonprofit who's here helping another nonprofit, and they said, hey, there's a great nonprofit down the road.
There's also a thrift store called Merriment Thrift. Money that's earned from the thrift store and restaurant goes back into Love City's mission.
Aren't they the cutest?
Carolyn Goodman has lived in the Portland neighborhood her entire life.
In all my life here, Portland has never had anything.
Until Love City came along.
Do you think I can make it right there?
It brings Carolyn hope, seeing young children have a safe place to learn and play, a place where her neighbors can stay true to their roots of just loving their neighbors.
We deserve change, and change for the better.
It's a flower.
I love the people of Portland. I love what's going on here in Portland.
All right, thanks to Myra for that look inside what Love City is doing. And of course, it is one of the top stories we have here on our homepage of wave3.com. But as a reminder, all the latest breaking stories, whether that's things, of course, happening right here in our backyard in our community, but perhaps some with even bigger footprints and impact from across the country. Those get updated as soon as possible right here on the homepage. You can also, on your smartphones, by the way, get it customized to have push alerts sent your way. Perhaps that's how you were able to connect with us to get on the stream for Wave Extra. So you can do that on your Wave News app, on the Wave Weather Now app. Great resources so you can always keep in touch and stay with it and know what's going on right here in your own community. We're about to wrap up here at 8:50. I'm going to show you all a bit of that now. Much more night-like view. This is our SkyTrack camera observing quiet Bardstown tonight. As a reminder, the whole team is going to be here to break down the day's big stories again on Wave News at 11. That's myself, meteorologist Ryan Hoke, and for Kevin for these next couple of days, our reporters Logan Prone and Julie Richardson as well. We always appreciate your time and tuning in. We will see you back here tomorrow at 8 o'clock on the Wave Extra segment here in the Wave Now studio. Until then, hope everyone takes care. Have a good night.